what's up everyone? MistVallyMaster here, and today I get to bring to you guys finally a new Dragunity deck profile. New in the sense that it's actually seen a relevant change since, because the last several times I brought you guys deck profiles, it was more of a refresher, it was just for people who hadn't seen the previous one and I guess didn't want to go back and take a look at an old one. They just wanted it to be updated, so I went ahead and did that for them. But other than just a little bit of experimenting with a couple of things here and there, it really hadn't seen any significant changes. So yeah, I'm definitely thrilled to be able to bring this to you guys. It is now a July 16th, 2015 TCG format legal deck. I'll explain card choices and stuff as I go. I'll explain a couple of combos here and there, but I'm not going to be going too in-depth into combos. If you want to see combos, feel free to go back to my channel, check out the video lists, playlists, Bringing Back Dragunities, or the newer one, which is Dragunities Forevermore. Both of those are just loaded with combo videos. They're easy to find because they're titled like combo videos or loop videos and stuff like that. You should find everything in the newest playlist. However, there's a chance there might be something in the older playlist that the newer one doesn't have. The older one is from last year, so it's before we even got like Ravine back at all. And then the newer one is once I think it's basically just as the Ravine came back to one. I could be wrong though. A couple of the first videos might have been before Ravine was brought back. But yeah, I'm actually pretty sure a few of them were before that. But anyway, so let's go ahead and get this underway, shall we? 3 Dragunity Arm Mistleton. I'm running him at 3, and the reason is because I used to run him at 2, back when Ravine was at 3. I had this guy at 2, but I feel 3 is now needed because the game has gotten much more powerful since then, so you need just all the better chance of being able to pull off your biggest combos and loops. Because Dragunities, to be completely honest, even when Ravine is back to 3, Dragunities are going to be one of those decks that if you pull off a big combo or a loop, the odds of you winning, even against the most powerful of decks, is pretty darn high. But if you don't get off your loop and you get off a less than ideal play, your odds aren't all that good that you're going to be able to come out on top. And when even the most powerful decks struggle against this one when you get off a very good combo or a loop, and you know what you're dealing with, therefore you make the correct setup. Things like Necroz, Infernoids, Burning Abyss, all of them struggle. But, yeah, the thing all those decks have, not only do they have overwhelming amounts of consistency compared to Dragunities, which when Ravine's back to 3 will have a pretty good amount of consistency, but even with Ravine at 3, we still don't have as much consistency as some of the newer decks have, which is just crazy how good Konami is making some of these decks in terms of being able to pull off the plays they want to make. And they also have more longevity, So many decks nowadays either live in the graveyard, like Necroz and Infernoids live in the graveyard, just like Dragon Rulers used to. They live in the graveyard, or they just recycle and replenish your resources when they leave so darn much. It's just scary, and it's rather stupid, to be honest. I mean, Satellar Knights, Shadal's, Burning Abyss, all of those decks, it's like, oh, you got rid of my stuff? Oh, well, I didn't really lose any advantage. Let me just make another play on my next turn. So, yeah. 3 Dragunity Ducks, that's pretty standard. Nobody would ever argue with that, I would hope. If you do want to argue with that, then, well, I question why you're even playing Dragunities at all and how much you actually think you know about Dragunities, 1 Legionnaire. I had 2 for a little while, I had 1 for a little while. It is at 1 now, and the reason it had gone up to 2 was because of how many times I was running into Necroz things with Jin locks, and I could not deal with that. Plus, I was running into Vanity's Emptiness a bit, and, when you run into something like Vanity's Emptiness, that kind of kills Dragunities. So it's like, okay, alright, I'll run this guy at 2, and then if you play Vanities, I normal summon this and equip something like a Flanks or an Acklys. I pop one of your monsters, your Vanities dies. If you're playing something like Genlock, I use this, again, pop your monster that has the Genlock in place, get rid of your monster, Hopefully I can do something my following turn, or maybe if you have Mistleton in hand, you can then special summon Mistleton over the Legionnaire and still do some kind of a decent play. But yeah, at 1, I don't think 2 is needed anymore. However, I might be proven wrong. I might be trying him out at 2 a little bit later, but for now I think 1 is sufficient. 3, Dragunity Phalanx. That is pretty standard. I don't think anybody would argue with that. 1, Dragunity Acklys. Honestly, I might eventually consider taking this out. I'm using it with Vajrayana and Legionnaire. With Legionnaire at 1, and with Vajrayana, it's almost always going for Phalanx in order to go for a level 8 Synchros. Acklys is a little bit on the limited helpful side, but that being said, he is just good enough that I think I still want to try him out. 2, Garuda, the Wind Spirit. I do not run 1. I like 2 because it allows me to go for my Queen Dragoon loop much more easily. You can also use them in a pinch to go for other rank 4s or something like that, but personally in my build I'm not running any rank 4s other than Queen Dragoon. But there have been 1 or 2 times I ran something like Sky Blaster or Ice Beast Zero Fine. As a matter of fact, I usually put an Ice Beast Zero Fine and a Sky Blaster in my side deck. That way I can side them in against an opponent that happens to be running a bunch of things that Zero Fine and or Sky Blaster kills. Alright, that's obviously we're past the Dragunity stuff, so now some 1-ups. We have Red Ice Darkness Metal Dragon, of course you need that. Harpy Harpist. I'm trying out Harpy Harpist. I was saying quite a while ago that Harpy Harpist was going to be like a future staple for Dragunities because of the searching and all that. And then for a little while I was trying to cut it out from the deck because I was trying to go for Clearwing Synchro Dragon plays and other things like that, so I was playing things like Glow Bulb or Blackwing Steam the Cloak. But, and if you want to run one of those things instead, if you want to be able to go for the Clearwing Run Steam the Cloak, and you can very easily make Clearwing in addition to a Stardust or a Crimson Blade or something like that, plus a Darkness Metal Dragon. It's really, really cool. But anyway, I am trying out Harpist again, because I feel that the extra Ducks or Legionnaire in hand by the end of the turn gives us just a little bit of a slightly more level playing field with some of those other decks like Burning Abyss. Because Burning Abyss get all those effects in the end phase. You know, they can add all this stuff to their hand or bring things out to the field or stuff like that. You know, they just get all these effects when they leave the field. Kind of hard to keep up with them. So it's like, okay, I'll go for my Darkness Mill M7 Stardust play, so I have 3 big monsters on the field at the end of the turn, plus I've dumped Harpist to the grave thanks to my Gay Dirk's effect, therefore I get Ducks in hand, therefore I've got something for the next turn, almost guaranteed, even if you kill my Dragon Ravine. So that's why I've got the Harpist in here. 1 Zephyros, of course you need him. 1 Baby Rock. Baby Rock allows you to go for more synchro plays more easily, plus he allows you to go for the Queen Dragoon loop. If you guys don't know what the Queen Dragoon loop is, again, check out my channel and you'll see it all over there. And, by the way, I'm one of the leading authorities on Dragunities right now, if not the forerunner with Dragunities right now on YouTube. I don't think anybody else is doing much in the way of Dragunity videos, or even if they are starting to now the Ravine is back up to 2, they still haven't been for the last, year and a half the way I have. I put up a bunch of Dragunity videos in the last year and a half, even while Dragunities were considered more or less dead. So yeah. Alright, that's the monster lineup. That is 17 monsters. On to spells. 3 Terraforming. 2 Ravine. I've got a 3rd Ravine here only because I don't have pseudo space. I never got a pseudo space. So yeah, this is supposed to be a pseudo space though. I wish Ravine was back up to 3. Give it just between 1 and 4 more months, and I'm sure we will see it back up to 3. But yeah, 2 Ravine, 1 pseudo space is what I recommend. If you guys honestly want to know, you can almost afford to take the pseudo space out, because having a 2nd Ravine is so good for the deck. You can almost afford to take out the pseudo space, especially considering what I'm about to show you in just a moment. Alright, 3 cards consonants. With 3 Phalanx and 1 Acklys in here, plus so many ways of adding them to your hand, I think cards consonants can easily be run 3. If you're going to take out the Acklys, which I'm considering doing, I'm leaving it in here for right now. I'm giving you this deck as quick as I can, so that so that you guys have it real fast and all that. But I am going to be doing a lot of testing and seeing how good Ackley's really is for the deck, and there's one or two other things I am testing. So give me about a month. We might have a new format within a month, but if we don't, give me about a month, and I'll have hopefully what I feel to be the absolute most viable Dragunity version there is. If I do take out Ackley's, I will take out one card's contents and leave in here just 2. Alright, 2 Dragunity Divine Lance. I have it at 2 for right now. I had it at 3 at one point, and I had it at 2 at one point. For right now, I do think that 2 is the better number. However, this is where I get back to what I was saying before. If you guys don't want to run the third pseudo space, getting Ravine back to 2 was amazing for the deck. If you don't want to run the pseudo space, you could run the third Dragunity Divine Lance, and I think the pseudo space is ever so slightly better for the deck, just a little bit better, but the Dragunity Divine Lance is very good at 3 as well. It is a very close call, and that's another thing I have to test out exactly to see just how much. Oh man, it's going to take hundreds of duels to really figure out properly. The thing is, if you draw into a Terraforming now, and you have 2 Ravines in your deck, which means almost every time you draw into a Terraforming, there'll be a Ravine in the deck. You don't have to go for the pseudo space way you did when you had 1 Ravine. If you drew into the 1 Ravine, all your Terraformings could only be used to get you a pseudo space. Versus now, there's probably a second Ravine in the deck you can go for. So you really don't need the pseudo space. Plus, having 2 Ravine is very good because if your opponent MSTs one of them, you still have a backup Ravine in your deck to potentially go to, versus pseudo space was only good for 1 turn. It could only be a Ravine for 1 turn, and that was all it could do. So having the second Ravine is amazing in that regard. It increases consistency. I mean, having 2 Ravine and 3 Terraforming is a lot better than 3 Terraforming and 1 Ravine. I mean, the odds of drawing into a turn 1 go up by between 5 and 10%. I think I want to say closer to 10%. But, so all of those things are good. The pseudo space now, if you do get to it, and you have 2 Ravines in the graveyard, obviously it can be used multiple turns, which is way better than just 1 turn. That's also another good thing. But all that being said, pseudo space could pretty easily be taken out, and you could put in a third one of these, and it would still be really good. I'm kind of undecided onto which way is better to go. But I'm thinking the pseudo space is just a little bit better as of right now. That being said, oftentimes, if I draw into a pseudo space, well, this was the case, but now with 2 Ravine, I think the odds of this go down a bit. But for the last couple of weeks, whenever I was drawing into a pseudo space, as often as not, it wasn't that good for me. And I wished I had a Dragunity Divine Lance, and Dragunity Divine Lances can only be used once per turn, versus Ravines can be used multiple times per turn. But, that's not much of a hindrance, so, Anyway, moving on to Mystical Space Typhoons. Some back row hate there. 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Soul Charge, 1 Raigeki, 1 Book of Moon. That's the spell lineup, 17 spells. Now I've got 4 traps here. I'll tell you what my suggestions are for the last 2. I don't have them as of right now. Let's see, like I said, you could run the third one of these if you want. So I got 2 Fiendish Chains. I'll explain why I have Fiendish Chain above Breakthrough Skill in a little bit. 1 Bombless, 1 Pulse. The last 2 traps I suggest would either be 2 Mind Crushes, or something like 2 Mirror Forces, or 2 Space-Time Trap Holes. And those 3 options, Mind Crush is very good against the top decks like Necroz. Mind Crush is a very good option. There are some decks, though, that Mirror Force is very good against, and there are some decks, especially when the Pendulum decks, the new Pendulum decks come out, and those start to become all the rage. Space-Time Trap Holes become amazing against Pendulum decks, so I think you have to know what you're generally going to be facing. It depends on what matchups you're going to have more often, and yeah, once you know that, you'll know which trap card to add. But that's what I recommend for the last couple of traps. Let's go ahead and move over to the extra deck. Okay, starting at the low end, we got Armades Keeper Boundaries. This thing kills so many things. It's so good against Burning Abyss. It can be good against things like Yang Zing, Gustos. Not that people play those decks too much, but yeah, this thing is so good against so many things. Vulcan the Divine. This is why I'm running a couple of Fiendish Chains. Vulcan the Divine, I haven't used too much, but I only started running him in my deck like a couple weeks ago to see how much I would like him. This thing can bounce your Fiendish Chains back to hand so you can reset them and use again on the following turn. You can bounce Ravines back to hand to protect them in your hand. You can bounce back Dragunity Divine Lance, so you can use that on the following turn. You can put back a monster like a Legionnaire back into your hand or something like that, use it on the following turn, and whatever you decide to put back into your hand or whatever, you get to put one of your opponent's things back. If you target a Synchro or Xyz monster, it's very effective at getting rid of it, and that helps get around things that get effects when they're sent to the graveyard or stuff like that, so yeah. I think this guy's actually going to be pretty good for the deck. Alright, 1 Dragunity Nightgate Durg. Basically just for the Cleafort matchup, although it's not all that bad against a couple of other matchups like Heroes too, it's okay. But mostly it's for the Cleaforts. Alright, we have 1 Dragunity Nightgate Durg. Gotta have him. 2 seems a little bit much though, in my opinion. 3 Vajrayana, you have to run 3. Some people try to say you can get away with 2. Honestly, I wouldn't ever try to run anything less than 3. I'm looking over my golf club set. I have the feeling they're going to topple over in just a little bit. Stardust Spark Dragon and the original Stardust Dragon. I think both of these are essential cards. I think you have to run one of each of them. 1 Scrap Dragon. It's becoming a little less useful at time, but it's still pretty good. 1 Crimson Blader. This thing seals so many games. Onto the Xyz, we got 1 Queen Dragoon Jin. You might have noticed when I say onto the Xyz, that means no synchros. I don't have Trish in here. First of all, I don't own a Trish yet, and this price skyrocketed up, so I'm not going to be getting one. But second of all, even if I could, I don't think it would be the best fit in Dragunities. I know some people are going to argue with me on that. Some people want to try combining with Trish with Dragunities, and more power to you. You need a Legionnaire in order to make it work. And if you pull it off correctly, I mean, you dump something like a Zephyros into the grave. A Garuda can work sometimes, but basically you dump a Zephyros into the grave somehow, summon out Legionnaire, bring back a Phalanx, use Zephyros, put something like Dragon Ravine back in your hand, bring back Zephyros, Zephyros, Phalanx, Legionnaire into Trish. So that means you get 1 big monster. Sure, you get to banish one of your opponent's cards on the field, one of the cards in their hand, and one of the cards in their graveyard. That's all really good. But after that, you've got 1 big monster. And it can't protect itself or anything like that. So I'm less than thrilled with it. Unless I can come up with a good way of getting a Trish plus a Darkness Metal plus a Stardust on field first turn, unless I can come up with something like that, I don't think I'm ever going to try really running Trish. Now, maybe there is a decent way of doing that. I've done a little bit of number crunching, though, and I don't think it's really easy to pull out those 3 at the same time. I just can't see it happening. Let's see if I can think of something. Steam the Cloak. No, you would still need a level 2, and I can't come up with a level 2, because I was going to say Steam the Cloak plus Zephyros. But you'd have to somehow get a level 2 onto the field, and I don't see how you can do that easily. Yeah, those things are definitely topping. Give me a second. Alright. So, Queen Dragoon Jin. Again, for those who don't know the loop, you really have to check it out. But this allows you to put up... All you need is the Baby Rock. You need the Baby Rock in the deck. You need an extra Dragon or Wing Beast type monster in your hand. You go for your big loop, you know, Gaydurg, Vajrayana, Phalanx, into a Tom, bring out Darkness Metal, bring back Gaydurg. You know, you go through the standard huge Dragunity loop thing, and then when you have a Zephyros on the field, and you bring back a Gaydurg with Darkness Metal, you add a Garuda to hand, discard a Dragon or Wing Beast, bring out Garuda, go into Queen Dragoon Jin. Then you can go ahead and bring back a level 6 Dragon and use it with Gaydurg to go into a rank 6. and there are a bunch of potentially good rank 6s. M7 and Strike Bouncer are probably the best two. Strike Bouncer can kill an effect and deal your opponent damage. M7 gives you back something like a Ducks in your hand, so you have a play for the next turn. Or you can bounce back one of your opponent's monsters back to their extra deck or hand, get rid of problematic monsters, which is really, really good. Let's see. And speaking of rank 6s, we have Heretic Dragon King of Atum. Of course, you need that. Strike Bouncer, like I mentioned before. M7, maybe the MVP of the Xyz monsters. He's just so good for this deck. Alright, and another interruption. Okay, back. So yeah, this guy is just so amazing. I don't know if I could have, if I want to get a second M7 in real life, but online at least I am considering running a second one of these because it is just that good. Yeah. Boom. This guy might be coming out at some point because even though I occasionally use it against things like Cleaforts, it's not all that amazing. If Vulcan the Divine proves to not be too terribly helpful, he might come out. What would I suggest running in their place? I might try a rank 4, like Sky Blaster or Zero Fine, because I mean Garuda or Zephyros plus a Dux, you know, you can go for rank 4s if you need to. So that's an option. You could try another rank 6 like Utopia Beyond, you know, can reduce all your opponent's monsters' attack down to 0, which is pretty good. Or you could try, there are a couple other things you could try. Man, I really wish Exabeetle could be a thing. I was thinking, you know, maybe Exabeetle, because you could bring back your Acklys from the grave, then you can send Acklys plus one of your opponent's monsters to the graveyard, and Acklys pops a card. But the thing is, the three big decks right now, Shadal's, Satellar Knights, Burning Abyss, all of them, they're Xyz boss monster type things, all get effects when they're sent to the graveyard. They don't have to be destroyed. Therefore, I don't think Exabeetle would be all that great. But, oh man, at some point I hope Exabeetle might be a thing, because I would be thrilled to be able to bring out an Exabeetle at the end of my Queen Dragoon loop, bring back an Acklys, pop one of my opponent's cards, use Acklys, pop another card and all that. That would be cool. But, not to mention you get to... never mind. No, you snag the Acklys from your own graveyard. I was going to say you can snag one of your opponent's monsters, but that's only if you don't equip the Acklys. So yeah, there are a lot of options you can do as far as the extra deck goes. You could put in a Thought Ruler or a Colossal Fighter if you want a couple other level 8 options, but I think I've got pretty good level 8 options as it is. Let's see. Any others? You could do a Hyper Librarian to potentially get pluses, but the thing is that uses up a normal summon, and then you know, I don't think that puts you in the best position, because Hyper Librarian can't protect itself or anything like that. Alright, that's going to do it, guys. As always, comment, rate, subscribe. Take care. I'll see you all later. Oh, more real-life decks coming in the not-too-distant future. I'm going to do Gustos at some point. I have everything for my Gusto deck, I believe. Even with the fairly new cards, I think I have everything I want for my Gusto deck. Harpies, I'm missing a couple of extra deck cards, but I think that's just about it. I think I should have basically everything else. So the Harpy deck, I'm waiting on a couple of things in the mail. So I don't know what order the Gustos and Harpies will come out in, but they're going to come out in the not-too-distant future, so be sure to look forward to that. I will see you all later, guys. Take care.